And up next, we have Truth or Fake, our daily fact-checking segment, and Vedika Bahel is here in the studio with me. Hi, Vedika.
Hi, Monty.
So we're staying with the hantavirus, which, as we've covered now, has 7 confirmed cases. 3 people have died. And since this outbreak began, conspiracy theories about the virus have really been swirling. Talk us through some of them.
Well, that's right, Monty. And as we saw during the COVID-19 pandemic, the only thing that spreads faster than a virus is misinformation. And the hantavirus is no exception, because with just a few confirmed cases, conspiracy theories are being fueled on social media. In fact, one top conspiracy theory being fueled at the moment is that the virus is a planned pandemic, or what conspiracy theorists are calling a plandemic. And that's in reference to a title of a pseudo-documentary from 2020 that spread fake news and false claims about the coronavirus. Now, one of the first big names to react to the hantavirus was far-right commentator and known conspiracy theorist Alex Jones, who posted, "Lockdown alert, globalists launch COVID 2.0. Now, there's also a former Trump and MAGA loyalist and fellow conspiracy theorist Marjorie Taylor Greene. She was one of many who falsely claimed that the hantavirus is a biological weapon unleashed by pharmaceutical companies to poison people with their vaccines. She was also one of many to falsely claim that the anti-parasitic drug ivermectin can be used to cure and treat the hantavirus. Now, many US accounts in particular alleged that the goal of this plandemic was to affect the US midterm elections coming up in November, and that in the event of a lockdown, voters would therefore be required to vote by mail, and that opens the door to potential fraud. And as we've seen displayed by Donald Trump and his supporters, they believe that it's in fact this voting method that led Donald Trump to his defeat in 2020 to Joe Biden. So, Monty, overall, there is a lot of misinformation being shared here about this virus, just as we saw with the COVID-19 pandemic as well.
Yeah, you're talking us through some of these viral theories. Is there any shred of evidence in any of them?
No, in fact, none of these theories have any scientific or factual evidence behind them. Firstly, I just want to say there is no cure or no vaccine for the hantavirus, which is a rodent-borne disease. There is certainly no research that ivermectin could be used as a treatment for it. It is typically used to treat parasitic worms. And the claim that we saw from Marjorie Taylor Greene, in fact, it relayed false information. Now, the original post claimed that ivermectin blocks RNA viruses from entering the nucleus and therefore preventing replication, therefore alleging that it would be useful to be used against the hantavirus. But in fact, the hantavirus does not replicate in the nucleus at all. In fact, it replicates in the cytoplasm, which means that ivermectin would have absolutely no effect on its replication. Now, I also want to remind you here that expert and public health guidance does not predict that a pandemic due to the hantavirus is likely. They have expected more cases to come out and be identified, but they are confident that a pandemic is not on the cards. And I want to take you back to what Maria Van Kerkhove, the Director of Epidemic and Pandemic Management from the WHO, said at a recent briefing. She said, "This is not COVID, this is not influenza. It spreads very, very differently. This is not the same situation we were in 6 years ago. It's very different, and most hantaviruses don't spread between people at all." Now, of course, with the growing anti-vaxxer movement, these theories have, of course, been amplified. COVID is also fresh on people's minds. That could also have an effect on these theories fueling. But overall, Monty, these remain conspiracy theories, just that at the end of the day, with no scientific or factual basis behind them at all.
Well, you mentioned the anti-vaxx movement. Another false theory on the rise is that hantavirus is actually caused by the COVID-19 vaccine.
That's right. Multiple viral social media posts falsely claimed that hantavirus was listed as a side effect of the COVID-19 vaccine created by Pfizer-BioNTech. They shared a screenshot from a Pfizer document which makes reference to hantavirus pulmonary infection. Now, I want to say this is a real document, but what it is being shared here is certainly misleading. This is from the appendix of a document titled List of Adverse Effects of Special Interest. Now, this is not confirmation that the Pfizer vaccine causes hantavirus pulmonary infection. In fact, the document lists any medical events experienced by a person during the study period of between December 2020, which is when the Pfizer vaccine was first authorized for emergency use, and February 2021. And all of these are listed regardless of whether it was related to the vaccine or not during that study period. So simply, these are just potential medical events that Pfizer would consider special interest if they occurred during the study period of vaccine trials. trials that researchers want to monitor closely. They are not conditions caused by the vaccine. There's no causal link to vaccination. Any actual adverse effects are published in Pfizer's product leaflet, and hantavirus is not mentioned there. So overall, this is very much a misinterpretation of a Pfizer document, again, with no scientific backing behind it.